Combating climate change is the biggest engineering project on the planet, and there are solutions. With using more and more renewable energy sources,
improving the energy efficiency
of our industrial units, and developing technology to transform the greenhouse gases emitted into new products. Because there is only one way to make a more sustainable future, together.
When the convention was adopted in 1992, global emissions were approximately 27 gigatons annually. This has risen to about 40 gigatons, while carbon dioxide accumulation in the atmosphere has also steadily increased.
Humanity is losing the fight to save natural treasures such as the Red Sea's stunning coral reefs, which are just meters offshore from where world leaders are gathering in Sharm el-Sheikh. The UN's target to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees has essentially failed, said the UN chief as he tried to shock delegates into action.
We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator.
More than 100 world leaders are either here now or soon will be. And while the threat a warming climate poses is well known, what remains missing is the global will to stop burning fossil fuels.
A clear roadmap to deliver on the Glasgow decision to double adaptation financing by 2025. Our emphasis must be on the health, well-being, and food and water security of the most vulnerable people in the world.
I don't need to repeat the horror and the devastation wreaked upon this earth over the course of the last 12 months since we met in Glasgow. Whether the apocalyptic floods in Pakistan, or the heat waves from Europe to China, or indeed in the last few days in my own region, the devastation caused in Belize by Tropical Storm Lisa, or the torrential floods a few days ago in St. Lucia. We don't need to repeat it.
What were once exceptional events are now occurring with increased frequency and ferocity. People in the poorest parts of our planet are being driven from regions that can no longer support and sustain them. Climate change is fueling conflict, global instability, competition for resources, and abject human misery.
Our leaders did not take heed. Other things were preemptive in their minds than taking care of our common home.
Pakistan has suffered more than most from climate-related disasters. Over 30 million people have been uprooted by flooding that began in June. We caught up with Pakistan's Minister for Climate Change, who helped get loss and damage on the agenda.
I'm very hopeful that we can find common ground without dividing the world as we have in the past, and saving the planet from burning up. So without hope, we cannot make a plan.
Activists wanting to demonstrate at COP27 must request accreditation 36 hours in advance, providing information such as the names of the protest organisers and details of the proposed march. Approved demonstrations are only allowed during working hours and in a specific purpose-built area.
Again, this backdrop, the lengthy discussions at COPs with its stalling, delaying tactics and procrastination that have hampered implementation and delivery is simply cruel and unjust. We cannot afford to spend more time skirting around the real issues, and we must break out of the open-ended, process-focused discussions we are trapped in. The pledge made 13 years ago in Copenhagen, committing US $100 billion annually, remains unfulfilled. Such a gracious and unexplained default is a major cause of persisting distrust, and neither is there any sound reason for the continuing pollution.
One place where geopolitical turmoil is already having an impact on the climate fight is Svalbard in the Arctic Circle. The Norwegian archipelago is warming quicker than any other place on Earth. Our Europe correspondent Nick Beak went there to find out more.
Venture deep into the Arctic Circle and you find Svalbard. There's no place quite like it. And here, a struggle for survival. Climate change is on fast forward.
Tonight, that Made in America plan to save the planet is contingent on winning the vote. In ways that are both obvious and obscure, climate is on the ballot. CTV's Tom Walters explains.
After more than 2 decades of sustained drought, the driest it's been in 1,200 years, Arizona has been scorched by climate change. And yet here, a Republican candidate for state office sneers at the things his Democratic rival thinks are important.
Fighting climate change.
Republicans have made inflation their issue, blaming rising gas prices on the Biden administration's energy policies.
When you declare war on oil and gas in a country that's still mostly powered by oil and gas, you think you might make the cost of gas go up?
But over and above the existential threat of the climate crisis, those Republicans who ignore it would drive up inflation themselves. Here in Arizona, water in Lake Powell has dropped 40 meters. A few meters more, and it will be too low to flow through the turbines of the Glen Canyon Dam.
The big reservoirs on the Colorado River are close to losing their ability to produce hydroelectric power. That would be a huge blow to the region.
And downstream, record low river levels would dry up the Arizona farmland that produces most of this country's winter supply of lettuce.
Those products are going to be more expensive across the entire country.
Earlier this year, Democrats and Republicans in Arizona approved over $1 billion in conservation measures. And a lot of the steps needed to meet federal climate goals depend on action at the state level.
And it's so important that the other states step up and do something about it.
But many may be about to do less. Based on likely results tomorrow, nearly half of all states are expected to reduce their commitments to fighting climate change. So the midterm elections will not just measure the political temperature, they could very well affect the global one.